Dubois and Hartman were going at it.
Well, now they drop the gloves. Arvidsson comes flying in.
Well, this all started in the end boards here with Hartman and Dubois. Remember, they were going at it a little bit earlier.
Daddy didn't give attention, to the fact that mommy didn't care.
Alrighty, folks. Now introducing Gage, Auzzo, Ausmus, and yours truly, Jay Swish. Folks, this is another edition of Live in 5, baby. Reporting live from the valley. That is Scottsdale, Arizona. Auzzo, it's finally cooling down a little bit, my friend. I think there was 100 days, 100 consecutive days in the desert that it was over 100 degrees here. So we were breaking records that way. But before we get to our interview today with Ryan Hartman of the Wild, number 38, 10-year NHL veteran, a guy that scored 30 goals in the National Hockey League with stops along the way. He was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks, Auzzo, dating back to the 2013 entry-level draft, 30th overall by his hometown team. Then he kind of made his way around the league a little bit, bouncing around to Nashville, Philly. Actually had a stint in Dallas on paper. I
really?
think somehow cleared waivers, or maybe Dallas picked him up from Philly, and then somehow ended up not signing there. They didn't qualify him, and then ended up in Mini, and has he found a home there? He's been so good. And you know Hartsey. He's a guy, he grew up in the Chicago area, but when you got to know him, he was in Ann Arbor, and he's always just been such a prick on the ice.
Oh, man, he's tough out there. And I was, the listeners will soon find out, Jordan, I was unable to make that interview, which I was sad about because I actually did used to hang out with Hartsey in Ann Arbor. Mostly my 18 years, he played for the Plymouth Whalers and still lived in Ann Arbor with his parents. So we hung out with him in his 18 year or my 18 year, when he was playing in the OHL. But that guy is such a legend, man. You know, he used to go hunting, with a guy named Thomas DePauli, who ended up playing at Notre Dame. And then, yeah, like you said, he's an absolute nail gun on the ice. Like he used to, he's a little bit, he's not like a huge guy. So like, smaller guys would challenge him to fight, and he would just beat the wheels off these guys.
He's always been just such a prick, dating back to his Chicago Mission days. Obviously, he was a 94. I was a 93 product. And I would always watch this guy out there, whether it was squirts, peewees, bantams, midget minor. He would always just be running around, and he was one of those guys, Auzzo. He's always going to catch you when you're in a bad spot. Now, he's not going to hit you straight on. Well, he can, and he will. But more often than not, it's always along the wall when your head's down or you're going back for the puck, and he's coming around the other side of the net, and it's a little bit of a peekaboo play. And he's going to catch you a little high, too, but it's just clean enough where he might maybe sneak away with nothing, or maybe at very worst, it's going to be like a 2-minute penalty, but he's going to make you sting.
Oh, he definitely plays with a little fuck you mindset. I mean, I think that's why he's still playing in the league. He's obviously very skilled. He's a first rounder. He's unbelievable at hockey, but he's definitely one of the few players nowadays who plays with that fuck you mindset, and he still does. And if you're exposing yourself out there, he's going to take advantage, because ultimately that gives your team a little bit of advantage. And now you're playing scared out there because he's out there. And like I said, he doesn't look like a huge guy out there, but he is strong and he's thick. Like he's not someone to fuck with.
No, and that one playoff series he had too was so funny with Winnipeg. Like he had the whole team wanting to kill him, because I think he kind of like slew-footed Ehlers, but it was just not dirty enough where he's going to get suspended. So he's always one of those guys, and we get into it in the interview. I asked him about, like, where'd you develop that edge? How did you always bring that criminal element, I like to call it, to the game of hockey? Because that is obviously one of the intangibles that makes him so good. And the other thing, Auzzo, is he can play with anyone. He can play up and down the lineup. Kind of a Swiss Army knife. You can play first, second, third, fourth line. And he's not going to bitch. He's one of those guys that if you probably put him lower in the lineup, he's probably a little grumpy. He's a little pissed off. So he's going to take it out on the other team, as opposed to maybe one of those guys that kind of bitches, mopes around, takes it out on his coach and feeling sorry for himself. He's not like that at all. So that's one of his intangibles. And yeah, we'll get to it later in the chat. But folks, this is, again, episode number 56. This is the pre-show of Live in 5 over here. As we always do, we snap it tape to tape. Crispy Rice, D to D with Auzzo and Swish. And Auzzo, we are always brought to you by Mini Movers and Butter Golf over here. Mini Movers is the official moving company of Live and 5. Again, you weren't able to make this interview with Hartsey because you were doing some stuff with Mini Movers. And, we missed you on the interview. Obviously, we were playing shorthand a little bit, but sometimes, you got to be a CEO of a multi-trillionaire company. So that is what it is, Auzzo, right? So the official moving company of Live and 5 is Mini Movers. Folks, if you want a free quote, talk to the captain. Go to the website, minimovers.com. Check them out on Instagram and X. They will get you a free quote. Contact the captain. He is always quick to respond. Again, if you need a move in the greater Minneapolis area, or if you're in the North Dakota region, again, they have an office up there, as well as on the other side of Wisconsin. If you need some help, well, Hudson, Chippewa, Menominee, all those good towns, Eau Claire, I'm sure they'll stretch it to you and get you a free quote today. Auzzo, we are always brought to you by Butter Golf. Butter Golf is the official lifestyle and apparel brand over here at Live and 5. We'll get to it in a little bit, but Amats 34, you might have heard of him. He was rocking the big Butter hat, the one you got on, but in navy. So we'll get to that a little bit later at the Toronto Maple Leafs golf outing they do to start the year before physicals get going, before the first day of camp. Again, when this drops on tomorrow, the first day of camp will be get buzzing. So I'm talking to those guys in Utah. They're still getting adjusted to the elevation. Auzzo, did you have a problem with the elevation a little bit in Utah when you played there for the Grizzlies? Because I'm talking to Nikki and I'm talking to some of the guys on the team. They're saying that they can kind of feel that their wind is gassing out a little more.
Oh, you definitely, when when I'd go there for camp or whatever, you'd feel it, but you do become acclimated to the altitude. And it was a little advantage to us, when we play Allen, Texas, they'd be, huffing and puffing out there, short shifts. It was like us playing Denver in college, Jordo. So you just don't notice it when you're used to it as much and you're practicing there and playing there every day. So I would say once they actually get acclimated, they're going to have a little advantage up there, just same as the Colorado Avalanche.
Those guys, too, in the Eastern League coming in from Allen, Texas, they're probably on the cigarettes and the moonshine, too.
Oh,
so
100%.
They're probably huffing and puffing even more. But
and they're getting off a 26-hour bus ride, too.
Oh, my God. Talk about the iron lung. You're crushing Keystone Lights, Natty Lights. You're smoking the vape pen, too, hot box and the shitter. You got the DAP pen out, the Ken Griffey, the Ken Spliffy Jr. pen out there, too. So, yeah, for sure. But yeah, like you said, they'll get adjusted. They'll be okay. That was interesting though. So then I started Googling and it's about 4,300 feet above sea level. So obviously Denver being the mile high city is about, 5,200. So it's up there though, Auzzo.
It is. It makes a difference. You definitely just walking around. If you take a trip there and you walk up the stairs in your hotel or wherever you're staying, you're going to be breathing a little harder.
Yeah. Got to have the iron lungs going. And it's funny too, because they're practicing at that. Did you ever go to the Olympic Oval, the Olympic skating rink there?
Yep.
It's always crazy when you're like, we were talking to Tuna, like when you're skating inside the oval, obviously there's like a couple rinks or maybe one rink. And I played at the Pettit Center growing up, just was in Milwaukee, which was another Olympic skating facility that a lot of people would train at. And they had two rinks inside the oval. And you'd be looking around, there'd be, on the weekend, there'd be the time trials going on for the speed skaters. There'd be another game going on in the other rink, and you don't even know what's going on. Like it's kind of a little bit of a different setup, especially for national leaguers.
Yeah, I knew they were going to be practicing at the Oval, obviously from Nikki, and then Tuna talked about it. I was wondering how that was going to be because it's a little bit of a circus over there. I want to say there's like 3 rinks in there, maybe 4. And there's a lot of different things going on. Whenever I was over there, I actually went there. The only time I spent time there was because I was, I was playing in the coast making $500 a week. Yep. Ain't great. So I was trying to make a little extra money. I was coaching hockey camps over there. And whenever we were doing that, it was hockey on one rink, speed skating on the other, figure skating on one end, little kids on the other end of it was a circus in there, man.
Yeah, I bet it was just. I remember the Pettit Center used to just be a full-on petting zoo. It's just like, but those guys are going to have their facilities set up here in the next couple of years, and they'll get it going that way. But yeah, Auzzo, I was just curious. So, good luck to the fellas stepping into a training camp. Obviously, the dog days are real, but it's not like the old days. So it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The worst part about those is the veterans. Now, how many games do you want to play in an exhibition season if you're a guy that's played 400 or 500 games in the National Hockey League? For me, like, give me 2. But it seems like the GMs and the coaches always want you playing like 3 or 4. And the one rule about all these exhibition games, Auzzo, is you need like 5 or 6 guys that have played over 300 games. So like an NHL veteran. So sometimes you get the burger game on the road where you have to go to San Jose on a Tuesday and then come back, or you're going into maybe Anaheim and having to stay the night. Like the best preseason schedules where you just do day of game trips, even if you're going on the road, get in, get out, in and out like a double. But some of these teams now, they're going in a night early, or they're doing like actually a road trip series where they'll go play San Jose, and then they'll go down to LA, or they'll go down to Anaheim. You don't want to be going on the road. You don't want to be going on the road in preseason. That season is long enough. So if you're a veteran guy and maybe you have enough pull to tell a coach, hey, maybe there's 7 preseason games. How many of those do you want to play, Auzzo? Is it 2 or 3?
Yeah, I mean, some of these veterans, too, they love hockey. So I guess if I'm one of those veterans, I used to, when I went to training camp, I was fired up. I was excited. I was like, this is unbelievable in the locker room. You're putting on the jersey, you're putting on the national, you got the NHL shield on your pants and your helmet and everything. And you're like pumped up. And I'm looking at the veterans and I'm like, these guys, this sucks for them. They do not have to be here. I would say if I was up there, 2 or 3 max, because you got kids running around trying to make a name for themselves that aren't going to play in the league. You don't want to. That's the last time you ever want to catch an injury, is if you're one of those veterans and you got to deal with some guy buzzing around out there trying to make a name for himself.
I would rather use it's yes, you want to hit the ground running and feel fresh, but if I don't feel unbelievable game 1, I'm not too worried about it, of the regular season. I want like one game. I probably want the first or second game of the preseason, the one that's at home, I'll take. Okay, that's the warm-up game. Nobody's really hitting. And then maybe I want a week off and I'll go play another one. Say, okay, I'll take one on the road. Maybe it's an up and back to, say, Vegas. Utah has to fly into Vegas, our bird. I'll go play at T-Mobile. There'll be a decent crowd. Hopefully they have a decent lineup at home, and I'll go play that one. And then I want the one game at the end of the preseason, which is about 2 or 3 days from opening night, and then let's get it going. Let's get it started. Let's get it going. 2 or 3 games, probably 3 if you're playing 7. So it's always funny talking to those guys. They're always bitching about like, fuck me, I got to go on the road. It's like, well, fella, once the 15th of October hits and you get that check for $600K, life's okay. You're going to be just get through it. Especially those national leaguers making big time dough.
100%. Yeah, you definitely. I would play all the games at home. Say that. Just keep me at home. Don't make me go on the road. I don't want to ride the plane. I don't want to stay in a hotel. Just keep me at home.
Remember when Roger Clemens had that worked into his deal where the Yankees would fly him in from Texas and he would only play home games? So he would come in and he was basically essentially just pitching whenever they were at home. And I think they were paying him like a monthly salary. Steinbrenner was paying him like $2 million a year. Now, this could be totally wrong, but if my memory checks out, I remember at the end of Clemens' career when he was playing for the Yankees, they would fly him in strictly for home games, and he would fly in, one every 6 days or one every 10, depending on the schedule and how it worked out. And they were paying him a monthly salary of like 2 sheets a month. So like that's just the ultimate holy country club.
That's unbelievable. I wonder how that goes on in the locker room. Like do the other boys like appreciate you or respect you? I guess it's Roger Clemens, but it's like that's a different. It's baseball, the locker room in there, that it seems weird to me because like, are the pitchers in one locker room because they're not really part of the team, and then all the other players are in one? How does that work?
I know the pitchers. I feel like they're like the kickers. They're just on their totally different program. It's like you're loading the team bird and they're bringing their wrenches. It's like, all right, this guy's going to golf because he knows he's not. We're going down to Florida for a 5-6 game road trip, and he's just going to play golf. Like, how does this make sense? He doesn't even know he's going to pitch. He's just be crushing beers all the time, going out, having, a beer a hole, and they're all just out there. Like, remember that old Atlanta Braves staff? All those guys were all sticks. It was like Greg Maddux, John Schmaltz, and Tim Hudson, or whatever his name was. And like, there's a couple other guys that were just all sticks, and they'd all just bring their wrenches on the road. So that's the life right there, is pitching. But Auzzo, before we get to the weekend recap, we do have our ad read from Gladiator Therapeutics. And that is, are you tired of dealing with chronic aches and pains or neurological conditions? Gladiator Therapeutics offers a revolutionary solution using quantum physics to improve your health. Our devices use patented technology to emit far infrared light, stimulating cellular processes without heat. This can reduce inflammation, speed up healing, and enhance mobility. Clinical trials show impressive results, including a 400% increase in survivability in stem cells, accelerated wound healing up to 68% faster, and significant improvements in Parkinson's disease models. Wearable 24/7 without power, our devices can be a game changer. Visit www.gladiatortherapeutics.com/contact-DRGM to learn more and start your journey to better health today. Auzzo, what did you get up to this weekend, my friend? Did you watch the UFC fights? Again, we will get into that, but fella, did you tie one on at all? Saturday, Sunday, maybe even Friday? Like, what were we up to, fella?
Yeah, Friday, I kind of laid low. Saturday, I had a golf match with my brother. So I do this annual golf match. It's a scramble match. Me and my brother play on a team, and we scramble against my dad and his one of his best buddies from college. They went to school at UMD, played football together. So we've been doing this for a few years, and my brother and I actually haven't won yet. We're actually better golfers than both of them. It's that old man strength. I don't know what it is, but they beat us every time. And actually this year we finally pulled out a win. Okay. And I had a few faderades on the course as I was wearing my faderade hat. You know, I posted a story about it. I was pretty pumped about that. It's always nice to have a faderade on the course. So we won that match, and then we drove back, and obviously, we had UFC Noche on the schedule, which we'll get into, like you said. But before that, we went. My mom and my brother Trey, my youngest brother, came to town because we all had plans to go to the Vikings game on Sunday. So it was actually funny, Jordo. On Saturday, no one else in my family was any bit liquored up other than me, and we're at this bar, and you know, I'm kind of in the pocket a little bit too deep in the pocket where I'm talking too much. And I get like that sometimes, and it's cringe, but that's what happens when I have a few too many and I'm not dialed in, you know, didn't have enough caffeine, maybe not enough water. Yeah. And I started talking too much, and I started like swearing loudly, and my family, you know, my mom's like, hey, calm down. You know, people are like, hey, just calm down. And they're kind of like taming me down, like, hey, dude, just stop talking so loud. And it kind of snaps my head, and I'm like, God damn it, now I look like a fucking idiot, you know. I feel embarrassed. I'm cringing a little bit. So I lower myself down a little bit and kind of got my screws kind of dialed in a little more. And then watched UFC Noche. It was awesome at the Sphere. We'll get into that. But then Sunday went to the Vikings game, home opener against the Niners, the NFL production, man.
How is that stadium, Auzzo, for a game? I've only seen a concert there. I mean, it looks fucking unbelievable.
It's the US Bank for a Vikings game, especially when they have a competitive team. Now, who knows what's going to happen this year? They've obviously had a good start, but when they're in a game, and it's just, you can't even describe it. You can't compare it to any other sporting event, because it's just, they spend so much money on the production, and the announcer's voice is so deep, and all the noises that they make, and the skull chant. I know people from outside of Minnesota think it's cheesy, and if I wasn't from Minnesota and a Vikings fan, I would think it's gay as hell. Yeah. Nothing wrong with being gay, but yeah, I'm going to use that term. It's unbelievable. It was just unbelievable, and it was great to obviously see a 97-yard touchdown pass from Sam Darnold to the boy Justin Jefferson. It was incredible.
Make saying gay normal again. If it's straight, say it's straight. If it's gay, it's gay. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being gay or straight, folks. But again, a way to describe something, sometimes, Auzzo, the only way to say it is gay. So that sounds like a hell of a weekend, honestly. Where were you massaging a few on Saturday where you kind of got out of line a little bit, or a little bit out of the pocket, and you were kind of scrambling, where you just had a dive bar? So where'd you guys go?
Yeah, kind of a dive bar near our place. So I had a few on the course. I was feeling great when we left the course. And then once we got to this place called Northern Tap House, it's in Plymouth. It's a great spot, actually. Good beers on tap. I had like some kind of a craft beer, one of them big ones, you know, and I finished it, and that's kind of put me over the line. So that kind of made me start yapping my mouth a little bit, swearing too loud around family sitting around me. It's just, I don't even want to think about it.
It's like the old Dukes from semi-pro Give me one of them big ones. I don't care,
Yeah.
Jackie. You know, he's talking about the check. Give me one of them big ones. I don't care. So he gives him the big check, and he tries to take it to the bank. He's like, well, maybe, Dukes, you got to take it to a big bank. Take it to a bigger bank.
He's got to go to a big check bank.
Yeah, it's like the Happy Gilmore checks he was getting, those big ones. So, oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, it sounds like a good weekend, fella. Me over here Friday night. I did dinner with the Heat Daddy, but lately, Auzzo, been working on my tennis game. So we played tennis Friday night. Shout out to my new coach. I've actually hired a coach now. That is Nate Lapointe. He is the youngest brother of Derek Lapointe, former Sioux scholar and hockey player out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So my neck of the woods, and his brother Nate, and Nick, actually, sorry, is his name, Nick Lapointe. Nate Lapointe is the equipment guy at UW, as you know. He's a beauty too. So Nick is the youngest brother. He was a tennis player actually at UND for 2 years and then transferred to Augustana. It's hilarious though, Auzzo, when you think like you're a decent amateur, it would be no different than like just a dipshit beer leaguer going out with, say, guys like us, and you know, he's an okay player, and then you know, you kind of get pretty accustomed to people that have been doing it their whole life. And
yeah,
Nicky is pretty good. And when he actually serves one, like he can serve it like 130 miles an hour. I was like, there's no way I would be able to return this, you know, like, so
have you tried?
Kind of like more so just doing like drills with him, like conditioning drills, and just working on my backhand and my serve, and, you know, just getting down and kind of working just different forehand techniques. But it's hilarious. Like we'll do like some rally drills, and we'll kind of just rally cross court, and, you know, I can return some of his shots, and then all of a sudden he'll hit one just like down the line or so hard. And I'll be like, Jesus, like, now, like, okay, there's levels to this. So yeah, I was working on my game all weekend. And then Saturday, like you said, watched UFC, the Noche, Mexican Independence. And let's get into that right now, because I was sitting at the DraftKings Sportsbook and over here in Scottsdale, just right by TPC. And Auzzo, just, I don't know. We talked about it a little bit last week. Just something about, you know, UFC fight night. It kind of just brings out that Buffalo Wild Wings like crowd. It's like, you know, just like back tattoos. It's tramp stamps. It's leg sleeves.
Good crowd.
It's, you know, guys with probably a barbed wire tattoo, guys that'll go to the gym and wear probably fully leg sweatpants, and they'll have a cutoff on. Because, you know, the last time they did lower body, well, it was probably at least a decade. So it's that type of crowd. You always have to have your chin tucked on fight night. And it's always kind of like an uneasy feeling, even when you're just sitting at a bar. It's like, Jesus Christ, if there might be just some guys might just break out a fight. You're in Arizona. There's probably a couple guys that have guns in here. There's a lot of guys that are coming out of a pickup with a 12-inch lift kit. You know, it's just a lot of different things that are going on fight night. But what I'm trying to get to here is all the Mexican fighters were chucking hard, but Sugar Sean Oferta, I mean, that walkout, I know he lost. I know Marab, you know, kind of just bullied him around in terms of his wrestling and different things. But man, that walkout superstar, like that'll never get old. You're sitting there, you're like, holy fuck, this is unbelievable. And the Sphere looks so cool for a venue too. Like it looked unbelievable.
It was incredible. It was incredible. And that song choice by Suga Sean, all time. Picking Superstar. I know he lost, which sucked. And I actually fucking went to bed after the third round because I knew I was getting so pissed. It was just getting tackled and couldn't get up the whole fight. It's like, I'm not watching the rest of this. But that walkout was all time.
Yeah, it is. I love that he always comes out to that nice and slow. The graphics in the Sphere looked unbelievable. Just all the fighters too. I mean, especially the Mexican fighters. They were taking a beating. They were doing everything for their country. But just get back to Oferta. Like he walks out to that song. It is so nails. The Lupe Fiasco, the beat drops. Like it's just like it just makes you sitting there, even at a bar, like, holy fuck, like I kind of want to chuck him. But the one thing in that fight is like, I don't know if you could somehow structure UFC. Like it seems like all these guys are getting so good on the ground versus where, I don't know. I just like to see something where, you know, say you get on the ground and it's kind of like you're in a spot where the guy's kind of just dry humping you for a while. Like maybe Herb Dean is like, all right, boys, you know, referee, get up and, you know, maybe just stand up and get back to your feet. Let's start throwing again, because there's nothing better and more entertaining when two guys are just throwing bombs right down the chute at each other, leg kick, different things. I don't know, Auzzo, when you get against the rails like that, against the guardrails of the octagon, and you start just kind of just dry humping a guy and getting him to a spot where, you can maybe get him into, a vulnerable position to ultimately, put him in a chokehold or whatever it is. It's like, I don't know, that part of the UFC, I kind of lose steam on. I just love when they just throw, man.
Yeah, and I know Dana tries to get guys to stand up and throw. Like, he gives out the fight bonuses and he only gives it to guys who are throwing the whole fight.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, it sucks when they're on the ground. It's like, this isn't really a fight. It's just, you're getting points and you might win by a decision, which Merab and Bilal Muhammad, I think their last 50 fights, they have 4 finishes and they're 2 of the champions right now. It's like, that's not that cool. We're kind of watching, not that I want anyone to get killed out there or injured, but I want to see some knockouts. I want to see some punches. I want to see some guys eat some punches. I don't want to see them wrestling around on the ground and just wasting energy. Like, whenever they go on the ground, Jordan, they're all just both so tired because they're just wrestling around. It's like, now they can't do anything. What are we doing here?
I mean, Oferta was so gassed out after even round 1 that he couldn't even really throw. Like, he was just like, he didn't throw any punches, man. And Merab was just dancing around like the Energizer Bunny, kind of just bouncing around, not really taking any shots. Oferta couldn't get in tight too much because then he's going to get taken down to the ground. It's like, I don't know, that whole, I guess, game plan against Sugar was just, I don't know. It's just kind of a boring fight to me. And Oferta just looked lost out there, man. He looked like a lost puppy.
Yeah, it was sad to see. But he's definitely, I don't know. You don't want to, how do you train for UFC? Like, do you just get in there and wrestle? Like, nowadays, it seems like the wrestlers just beat up. Like, if you can dodge a couple punches and you're good at wrestling, well, you're going to get points because you just spent time on top on the ground or whatever, like in control. I don't know. It sucked. It was not a fun fight to watch. It was not a great ending to a great night, I thought. All the other fights were fun to watch, most of them. And like you said, that venue, Jordo, that Sphere, I don't know if they can pull off any sporting event other than fighting. Like, they could do a boxing match there or UFC again, but that venue, it's unbelievable. Even watching on TV was incredible. I saw all the people talking about it online that were there actually, and they're all just like, it's the best event I've ever been to in my life. Like, it's insane. So that to me means I got to get there and see an event at the Sphere at some point. Yeah,
it looks so cool. And the Grateful Dead did a stint there in terms of they had a stay in Vegas where they were playing there every weekend for I think it was almost 6 weeks. And then now the Eagles are coming in. So I was even thinking of maybe even sliding in for the Eagles just because of the graphics, the effects. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just screams, let's get on some mushrooms. Let's have a little toke. Let's have a couple drinks. Let's let all of that combine into one concoction, and let's see what happens. Because you look at the light show, you look at the graphics, you look at the aesthetics, just everything. And I've heard the acoustics are unbelievable in there too. So I think you're probably right in terms of that's probably the only sporting event you could probably pull off. But actually, for a league that's 20 years behind a lot of different leagues, the National Hockey League and Gary Bruce Bettman doing the draft there was fucking genius. Because way ahead of the time. That's a home run. One thing, lastly, I wanted to touch on UFC was just giving love to UFC referee and official of the year, Herbert Dean, 51-year-old. I mean, I thought we were going to miss him, Auzzo. I thought he wasn't showing up. He didn't do any of the prelims. He didn't do any of the main card, and he shows up for the prime time event of Suga and Merab, and there he is, Herb Dean. I mean, I tweeted it out. I said, if I ever have a wedding, I want Herb Dean to officiate it, because if he sees something he doesn't like, immediately call it off, because that's how much I trust Herb Dean's eye. Herb Dean is the only official outside of a Foot Locker I trust. That guy is nails. Did you see him at the start of the fight with Suga and Merab? Merab's camp, or someone was chirping Suga, or they were kind of going back and forth. He stopped it immediately, got in there and said, hey, knock that off, cut that shit out, never again, and made it very clear that Herb Dean was not fucking around. That guy, I mean, there's a reason why he does every primetime fight, Auzzo.
Yeah, there is. And people, I don't think people realize, you have to be really good at what you do to be in these positions. It's like Bruce Buffer. Like, people are like, oh yeah, whatever, anyone can announce. No, they can't. And not everyone, oh yeah, how it'd be easy to ref for UFC or whatever. It ain't. There's plenty of people that do it. Herb Dean's the only one doing all these main events. So he's clearly the best at what he does, which is nails.
Yeah, he's got eagle-like eyes. And you mentioned Buffer. Buffer, his routine before a fight and before a fight night is hilarious. Like, he takes it so seriously, as he should, because he's making a bag doing it. But it's like honey with tea, and then he hits the steam shower, then he gets a workout, and then he's back in the steamer, and then he's massaging and warming up his vocals, and he's got another routine, and then he's putting the 3-piece on and putting the tux. So it's just like the bow tie, it all comes together. Buffer is unbelievable too. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to Dana White. Just what a product the UFC is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Auzzo, I think we both agree with this. Like, let's get these fellas off the ground a little bit, and let's get the real show, because I don't know. It just seems like UFC a lot lately is just coming to a lot of just wrestling, ground and pounding guys, dudes just kind of just dry humping each other like they're on a twister board late night.
Yeah, and we don't want that. We want to see haymakers. That's what I want to see. Give me some kicks. Give me some finishes. I want to see a finish. I don't want to see a split decision.
I can't wait to see John Bones chuck him in a couple months. My God, is that guy a savage. Imagine being a UFC heavyweight and throwing down the cock like Johnny Bones does. But yeah, I agree. Let's get some Nate Diaz-like fighters in there that's just stand in the pocket. Even Adesanya will chuck him like that. We need more of that on your feet. Just not so much dry humping, boys. So stop humping each other. Save it for the bedroom. Anyways, Auzzo, going over to NFL Week 2, and I want to start it off the top with you, just discussing something that happened earlier in the past week with Tua. You know what? There's a lot of people jumping to conclusions, saying this guy should retire, saying this guy should be done with football, saying this guy should never play a game again. And ultimately, they are looking out for the well-being of a young man that's had 3 concussions. He's kind of seized up, and at least 2 of the 3, if not 3 of them, are his hands just, going that weird motion where it's just very scary to see. But I wanted to get your take on just the whole concussion topic, just Tua's, just overall well-being. And, as a guy that has had concussions, you've played pro, you've played college, you've played football as well. This is a serious matter, but at the same time, I wanted you to get your perspective as a player, fan, and just overall, Auzzo's opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously it's kind of traumatizing to see a guy go down like that, and then his hands clamp up and he doesn't know where he is, and it looks like he's seizing. It's like that ain't good. And obviously we're all trying to, avoid CTE, right? Like, no one wants CTE, and you don't want to see anyone get CTE. But at the same time, here's what I'm thinking, Jordo, is like, we talked to our doc, Dr. what's his Galopoulos?
Yeah, Dr. George Michaelopoulos.
Okay, Dr. Michaelopoulos, he tells us, everything, your body gets used to things. So if you're not treating something that's injured, your body's going to get used to it, and you feel like you're recovered when you're really not. But he said you can actually recover from these things doing certain exercises, doing certain things, and no one really knows what those things are. Maybe some people do, but you can recover. And if Tua wants to keep playing football, it's his life. And who are we to tell a guy what he can do with his life and what he can't do? If he wants to continue on playing football and he's not scared of getting a concussion again, and he's doing what he can to recover from it, go out there and play again, man. Like, he knows what he's signing up for. Obviously you don't want to see it happen again. It sucked to see it happen this time, but let the guy play. And I think if he can, there are ways to recover. And I don't think people realize that. They think like, oh, he's done, he can't do it anymore, his brain's shot. I don't think it means his brain is shot. He can recover.
I 100% agree. And especially a guy doing the rehab, doing different things, coming back from concussions with Dr. George. There are ways to rehab, identify what's exactly going on, and ultimately, Auzzo, just letting that inflammation die down in your brain so you can get the proper care. And who are people to say what he should do or what he shouldn't do? Now, I do think that Tua should probably take at least a couple months off. I think that's probably fair. I don't think he should be coming back anytime soon. I think to let the brain heal. It's been through a lot of trauma. I think he should
last year, Jordo, didn't he come back
like 3 days after one, man. He
Yeah.
got another one.
Yeah.
And then he seized
that
up
was
again.
bad. That was
So
bad.
now you've doubled that trauma within a week. Now that's not good because that's like second hit syndrome, they call it, or whatever it is, or it's second impact syndrome. And now you're running into possibly making that problem twice as worse, and really running into problems probably later in life. Now, just again, hopefully he's going to be okay. Hopefully he can get that sorted out. But what I'm saying is that, really heightens or strengthens the risk of having future problems. Now he gets another one this year. Okay, that's not great either. But I just think that Tua should talk to his medical experts, get the proper rehab needed, whether it's with Dr. George or someone like that, and just make a decision from there. It's Tua's life. It's his career. Talk to your family. Make a well-informed decision, knowing the risk on either side, and then go from there. But I do think that he should take a significant amount of time off and then, assess from there. Because if you just make a quick split decision, now that's stupid too, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to just make a sudden decision. I mean, this is this guy's life. He loves the game of football. If you give that career away, how is he feeling? Maybe he's okay to play, but now, you're depressed, you're lost, and you have all this money, but money can only buy so many things. So I just think Auzzo, for him, I think you take a good amount of time off, whether it's half a year, a full year this year, get back. Look what Crosby did, Auzzo. He took a full year off. Now, he was going through a lot of different symptoms, but he was smart about it. He didn't come back. He didn't rush back. He didn't know if he was maybe going to play again, but he worked through it. He found the proper care, the proper rehab, and ultimately was able to make a decision of knowing the risk, coming back to play. And you know what? He's actually been dinged up a couple of times since then, but I think he's probably learned how to deal with it. And ultimately, when he knows he gets dinged up, he's able to, go get the right treatment and get care. But I just think for Tua, Auzzo, lastly on it, it's just like, block out the noise, make the decision for you and your family, what's best, talk to the medical experts, and if they say they give you clearance after X amount of time off and you want to do it and you fully know the risk on the other side, who are we to say that he shouldn't play?
No, yeah, and he could be fully recovered too. Like, you don't know, and we know about this stuff. That's why we're scared of it, right, Jordo? Like before, in the 80s, in the 90s, even these guys were getting these injuries and going out there the next play.
Yep.
And I'm sure some of those guys, they probably had 15 of these things and they didn't even know it because it wasn't a known thing. And a lot of them are probably fine right now. You never know. I mean, obviously some of them suffer side effects later on in life, but I think, if your doctors are telling you and you're making that decision, it's up to you.
Yep. Yeah, I 100% agree. So we wish Tua nothing but the best over here. Auzzo, your boy and Minnie, you were boots on the ground for this game at US Bank Stadium. How electric, and I was chirping him last week, saying he was washed up, he's a pigeon. You can't win with a guy named Sam Darnold. He throws a 97-yard dart to Justin Jefferson, who takes it to the hizzy Skull Vikes. I mean, that place had to be just 6 to midnight all over the place. I mean, how crazy was that touchdown? The electricity in there was probably nuts. It was probably felt in St. Paul.
Oh, it was insane. And you thought he was going to get tackled on like the 20-yard line, and he cuts back. When he got in the end zone there, it was incredible. And yeah, I mean, it's fun watching NFL because obviously when you watch any sport in person, you realize how much faster it actually is in real life and how little time these guys have to make decisions. Like when you go to an NHL game, you're like, they have 0.5 seconds to make the right decision to pass the puck. It's the same with football. Like these quarterbacks, they've got the scariest dudes on the earth just sprinting at them. I don't know how they do it, man. And yeah, I mean, Samuel, you were chirping him. I was kind of chirping him too. I wasn't feeling good about the Vikes season, but this guy's obviously showing up to play. I think he's getting some confidence, and yeah, I mean, that place was rocking.
Yeah, he 17 for 28, 268, 2 titties, had that obviously highlighted by that 97-yard dime bag to Justin Jefferson. I mean, he was fucking horrible with the Jets, Carolina, and even his stint in San Fran, and he beats his old team in San Fran. So, you know what? Sometimes you got to give credit where credit was due. Our boy, or my boy, your boy, Gardner Minshew, I feel like we're talking about him every week, rallies the Raiders back with 3 scoring drives in the fourth quarter. I mean, like Creed said, you know, they're I mean, he's working out to Creed. He had the mullet, like, you know what I mean? It's just like that guy. Can you take me higher, Gardner? Well, fucking rights he did. He threw that pick early on. Max Crosby grabs him and says, fella, you know what, it's going to be okay. And then you know what he does? He just rallies the troops back. So that was cool to see. One thing I wanted to touch on with you, Joey Burrow, okay? You know, he was the highlight of the offseason. He was going to Fashion Week in Paris. He's done GQ shoots. He's done all these. He was in Vogue. He's at the center of Men's Health. He comes back. He shaves those luscious locks off. And he goes full Slim Shady, something that I always wanted to do. You go with the platinum blonde hair up top, buzz cut. Joey Burrow right now, Auzzo, is 0-2 with the Slim Shady haircut, okay? They lost a dagger to the Chiefs this past week, but if you're Joey B, are you changing up the look right now, or are you doubling down, hoping you can rally back, and now it even looks sicker? Or you're like, fuck, I gotta go full buzz cut, try to change it up, because this Slim Shady, this knockoff Slim Shady ain't working in Cincy right now.
If I'm him and I did what he did in the off season after being injured all year, I'm shaving it off, doing something. I'm like, hey, and I'm making a public service announcement. I'm like, hey, listen, Bengals fans, Cincinnati, this is fucking done. It's over. Right. All right, I'm sorry. I apologize. I made a mistake. This isn't who I am. Now I've got a buzz cut, and I'm coming out here for fucking blood, all right? That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm done with it. I think you have to be. It's like Caleb Williams. You don't fucking paint your nails if you're 0-2.
Right.
You're fucking business now.
I think Caleb only had 2 nails painted this past week, so maybe he's down to 1 next week, and then who knows by week 4. So I agree, Auzzo. I think Joey B, fella, like, I mean, who are we to say, but I think the Slim Shady stick, I think you got to gas it. It's not working. It's not working for your squad. It's not working for Cincy. Maybe if you were in Detroit in the dirty, baby, you'd be up 2-0. You'd be 2-0 because, you know, Slim Shady obviously being a Detroit guy. But, yeah, I just think that it might be time to change it up. You know what? Speaking on the other side of things, who never changes up his style, Auzzo, is a guy out of the ATL now, former Vikings quarterback, your boy, well, your old boy, Kirky Lance N. Cousins. I mean, the guy straight out of an Eddie Bauer commercial. How about rallying the troops on Monday night against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly, in South Philly, leads the troops back. I mean, a couple bonehead plays by the Eagles, but nonetheless, Kirky Cousins with that comeback, I feel like he's always good for that early on in the season, like before week 8, like just gives you that glimpse of hope. Like this might be something. And then it's never anything more than you could, you know, think it was at the start of the year in maybe August. But Kirky somehow always just gives you that flash of kind of like split second greatness, Auzzo, kind of like a hit single.
Mm-hmm. He does. And I'm going to be honest, I was a little rattled when they didn't re-sign him because you never want to start a season with a brutal quarterback, and Kirk is a serviceable quarterback, makes good throws, but I'm so happy he's gone. I'll give it to Kirk, Jordo. You got to be a nail gun to be a quarterback, and obviously in the NFL, you're cool, but this guy is an absolute grade A dork. He's a fucking dork. Everything about him, his style, he looks like a dork. He talks like a dork. He's just he is not a cool guy, but man, somehow he gets it done. Like he started off his career 0-9 on Monday nights or primetime games. The last 5, he's 4 out of 5 primetime games. So he's shutting up the critics. He's getting it done. Obviously, he's taking hits back there. He has nails, but I just can't get over, like, can you win a Super Bowl with a quarterback who looks like that? You can't.
No, I mean, I think the closest thing to that is Russell Wilson, and somehow he got it done just because I think he probably had a little bit of a better system.
Yeah, but Russ had a little swag back then, a little more than he does.
Yeah, he did. Before he got to Sierra, he kind of did when he was dating that white bitch from Wisco, and then he kind of got rid of her, and then he was kind of maybe playing the field. But he also had Money Lynch. He had Cam Chancellor. He had a lot of those bad dudes on Seattle. Pete Carroll, that structured offense for Russ too. Like, he had better legs. So I don't know. I mean, Kirky Cousins obviously on the back half of his career on hole 16, 17, or 18. But yeah, he always just gives you that little glimpse of hope. And staying on the topics of dorks, so Andy Dalton getting the start. This guy is like a cockroach. You just can't kill him. He's back in the league somehow. He seems like he's never left. It seems like he's always that serviceable. Well, he used to be a starter in Cincy for a long time, and then he found himself in Dallas, and now he's where? Carolina, I believe, or is it Jacksonville?
Carolina,
that's right. Yeah, so he's the fire crotch, the cockroach is back. Like, this guy, how old is fucking Andy Dalton? Is he 40 yet?
He's got to be. He's got to be getting up there. I mean, I remember watching him play at TCU in college. For the Horned Frogs when I think I was in high school or college. I don't know how long it's been, but yeah, this guy he seems to love playing football. And now they just benched their first overall pick. I mean, Carolina, the Panthers, that is a dumpster fire. I mean, it's get your ass out of there if you're a player. If I'm a player there right now, it's hilarious, Jordo, because Adam Thielen signed there out of Minnesota, and he says on an interview, obviously you got to say it as an athlete. He's like, yeah, I signed here because I want to win a Super Bowl. Okay, you're the worst fucking franchise in the NFL right now. And it ain't even close. So that's hilarious you said that. But if I'm an agent of a player on that team, or if I'm a player on that team, I'm calling my agent and I'm being like, hey, get me the fuck out of here or else my career is over.
Yeah, Charlotte too. What a city. Shout out to the Epicenter. Shout out to the Ivory Room. Oh. Going in there in the old jungle days, Auzzo, what a city. Like, I think that could be a golf trip city for the fellas eventually. I mean, it's got everything you need. It checks all the boxes. Actually, a very clean downtown. And it's not as preppy as I would say Charleston is. Remember we were in Charleston, and if you didn't have the salmon-colored shorts, you didn't have the what do they call the things on the sunglasses too, where you wear them and it's like connect them at the backside,
that's what I got right here. I got those old, what are these things called?
I don't know, but yeah. So, but they're like the Polo by Ralph Lauren ones, like they're like the preppy USA ones.
Yeah.
You got the boat shoes on, the polo, just Vineyard Vines, right? You're the guy modeling for Vineyard Vines. Charlotte has a little bit more sandpaper, a little bit more influx, I would say, of not as preppy. That's a sneaky town going in there, especially we used to play them like 8 fucking times a year, maybe even 12. We'd always go in there, have a night. Shout out to Chelly too. Jake Chelios, one of the biggest beauties of all time. Used to play there for like 4 or 5 years at the Bojangles Coliseum. I think every night we went there before or after a game, we always ended up at Chelly's house, and he was single at the time, and just throw after parties, smoke darts, have beers, beer pong. It was just a whole 9 yards. That guy is a beauty. So shout out to Jake Chelios, absolute legend. But Auzzo, last little bit on the NFL. I mean, one thing we got to discuss, and I think it was tweeted out by a guy we've had on this show before, in John Buchagras from ESPN. Do they need to make the field goal post smaller? Because it seems like 50 yards is now the new 40-yarder. Like, these guys are making bombs easily from 50, if not 60. They could probably even step back on the other side of the 50-yard line and make a 70-yarder if they wanted, because it seems like these kickers are not just, eating ice cream, hot dogs.
No.
Out. Like, these guys are full-on athletes now, and they're dropping bombs.
They are. And it is a little like, when your team, let's say you're watching your NFL team and you go up 2 points with 50 seconds left and the other team's got a good quarterback, you're like, well, we lost. They're getting within 50 yards and they're kicking a field goal and it's over. I think that part sucks. Like, you shouldn't be able to get points from the 50-yard line,
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, as a Vikings fan, I think we should fucking widen it because we've lost so many goddamn games missing field goals, So
I guess that's a good point. Like, depending on where you have your money on, what side of the line. Right?
yeah, exactly. But it is pretty. I mean, these kickers are dialed in, man. They're nails, and you got to have some stones to kick some of those kicks to win, like to end the game. Like, no other player has that pressure on them, and now you're the kicker. You're like, are you a part of the team? I don't know. You're the kicker. You're not actually playing football. You're just kicking balls. I don't know. Yeah, it's it's pretty cool to see him knocking those down though, and it is kind of sad to see Justin Tucker on the downturn. He's not he doesn't have it anymore, does he?
Yeah, he's half washed. He's not the Tuck of old, obviously,
Yeah.
right? He's not. I don't know if he's got that same power in that leg. You know, he's not like Sebastian Janikowski, who the Raiders Al Davis took in the first round way back in the day. He kicked his longevity for a guy even in his shape. I mean, he was there for like 20, 25 years, still darting right down the middle.
What a sick pick.
Yeah.
What a sick pick.
What a sick pick. Taking a kicker in the first round. But yeah, Tuck, I think, is definitely losing his steam. I think there's a lot of teams that would still like his services. But you're right, Auzzo. It's like you're the most underappreciated guy on the team until we need you. It's like, well, okay. Well, it's like, what do you just say? It's kind of like, it's similar to like a booty call or a hotline bling. It's like the guy that has 10 drinks, 12 drinks, strikes out at the bar, and then tries to call the girl over at 2 a.m. and say, hey, I need you right now. Well, it's like, well, you couldn't take me to dinner. You couldn't call me earlier. But now in the dying seconds when you really need me and you're out on an island and you need to get something done, how you need me. Oh, yeah. How does that make me feel? Like that? I feel like that's kind of like the kicker. It's like, oh, yeah, now you need me. Now you need to win you a game.
Yeah. You guys are rolling for 4th and 5s. You're keeping the offense out there for 4th and 5s from the 20-yard line. Now, when there's 2 seconds left and all the fans are on their feet, and I got a 55-yarder, now you're calling me in, you pricks. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah, and the girl sitting there too. It's just like you couldn't even ask me to just come over to the same bar you were at with your friends to have a drink. I mean, I don't even need dinner, but at least make me feel somewhat a part of this. Now you're at home and it's 3:30 in the morning, and you've probably tried to call 4 other girls in your bullpen, and they're not answering you, and you think I'm coming over. It's like, well, baby, I love you. It's like, what? You sit there like, what are you talking about? So that's always how I picture a kicker being, because. It's kind of the same thing. It's like you only need me when you really need me, right? Otherwise, stay over there. Yeah. So underappreciated, just like a good 2 a.m. hotline bling. Auzzo, that's enough on the NFL talk. Again, going over to the National Hockey League. We touched on a little bit in the pre-show earlier about how camp is just getting going and underway in the National Hockey League. Guys getting their physicals done today. You go down there to the doctor's office. You do the blood work. You get the EKG on your heart. You do the eye check. And they touch your nuts, make sure that's all good, and, get into camp. And that'll be tomorrow when this pod drops. But I just wanted to give a little love to AMATS34. He was over at the Toronto Maple Leafs charity golf event that they do every year. I played in it 1 year. He was rocking out with his dog, but more importantly, Auzzo, he had the big Buddha hat on, the one you got on, but in navy and blue. So it's good to see AMATS34 supporting local businesses, baby, especially over here at Butter Golf. I love that. Actually, was his birthday the other day. So he's a 97 born. So what does that put him at? 27 years old, Auzzo?
Mm-hmm.
He still seems like a kid. Seems like he's been in the league for 10 years, but 1 year at the same time. Remember his first game, dude, when he had 4 tucks? Like, are you kidding me? He had 4 tucks. Like, all right, man. Like, is this league? He comes over from the Swiss league. It's like, all right, how's he going to do? He played pro last year, but it was in Switzerland. Yes, he was around a point a game. He comes into his first game and against Ottawa, and he just puts up 4 bunks. It's like, holy fuck.
Guy's the coolest guy in the National, I think. He's I don't think he's the best player in the National. He very well could be the best American, but in my book, he is by far the coolest player in the National. I don't think there's a second. I don't think second place even holds anything to him.
No, I would say, honestly, probably number 2 would be a guy on his team in Willie Styles.
Yeah.
He's probably number 2, but those guys, I mean, they're cooler than the other side of the pillow. So shout out to 34. Thanks for rocking the Butter Golf, fella. Auzzo, I wanted to touch on Johnny Toews. We were going to touch on it last week. He posted an IG Instagram at Burning Man. I mean, talk about a full oil change over there. That's one of those oil changes where you take your car to the old brake masters and you say, you know what? Look at this from head to toe and just let me know what's going on. And if I need any new parts, if I need a new muffler, if I need a new engine, if I need, new brake pads, if I need some, whatever it is, oil. Do I need some, the stuff that comes out of the windshield wiper fluid? Do I need whatever you need to change it here, exhaust pipe, whatever you need to change, just change it. Because I'm going full oil change, give me the new kit. I want to rewire what's going on in here, and I'm going to Burning Man. So did you see the pics of Taser on Burning Man? I heard Burning Man's fucking insane.
Those pics were all, I mean, his pics that he posted were sick pictures. It looked like he had like a professional photographer following him around. And then his caption, I forget what his caption was, but his caption was a little philosophical.
Philosophical,
yeah. Right?
It is, yeah.
It was a little, he was definitely finding out, some things about himself. And it looked like he really enjoyed it. And he had an unbelievable experience. Now, obviously, I've never been there. I've heard some stories. I've read some things. It looks like possibly one of the crazier places on earth you could be if you were a little vanilla and you're wearing your pants a little too tight. It might be something you might not understand, but that was insane to see him there. And I know he's kind of been like that. He likes figuring out, kind of getting the mind in different spaces. But yeah, that was pretty cool to see out of Taser.
Talk about seeing the ball at Burning Man. And his quote was, "You don't know until you know. Burning Man is a circus, a total space carnival. Everywhere I looked, I saw something new that blew my mind open wider still." And then his quote, he kind of just talked about it a little bit, thanking people. And then saying, "Burning Man community for helping me once again find the fire that burns within, and for the timely lesson that it isn't what you do, it's how you do it. Your celebration, your dance will be enough to prevent the war." So, yeah, I mean, that's one where you fly in and you bring the full Walgreens pharmaceutical kit, okay? So from A to Z, you have about every drug in the book. Now, I'm not saying Taser did that, but if you're going to Burning Man, folks, you're probably getting on at least a plant-based diet in terms of mushrooms and dope. Now, from there, the heavy hitters at Burning Man, from what I'm told, you're chili dipping into the acids, you're dipping into the disco biscuits, the DMTs, the ayahuasca resets. It's the whole goddamn 9 yards, Auzzo. And from what I'm told, I've actually talked to a chick before about this, and I was telling you a little bit about it. So Burning Man, there's one road in, one road out. And it's essentially just in the middle of California, bumfuck, in the desert. So you go in there and it's just like a desert field of dust where people fly in, most drive in, and you bring an RV, you can set up camp, and it's the bougiest setups you could ever see, to the person with a backpack that probably walked their way in, and they'll set up just a makeshift camp and they get down. And it's all like, Oso, it's Odessa, it's all like electric kind of music, and there's music going all around this place. And usually people get around by dune buggies. They have, maybe if you're sober enough to drive, or you have a bike or some sort of electric scooter, and you're just milling around basically a massive campsite in the middle of the desert, from what I'm told. Again, I've never been. And it's people from celebrities, billionaires, to all walks of life, of hippies. And you go in there and you just burn it down, literally to the goddamn ground. And there's parties with, say you're at one party where it's just all naked people. Then the other party, it's like, okay, it's body paint only. Or maybe it's a feminist type movement. It's all women. There's maybe a gay party going on over there. And then there's a co-ed one. And then there's a singles party. Then there's a swingers party where everyone's tucking everybody. It's just me on top of you, on top of her. We're talking missionary. We're talking about ground and pound, Auzzo.
Whatever you want to do, man. I think, I've always been a guy who, I've met so many different types of people, Jordo, where, I know some people, some hardos would think this event is just crazy to them, and they think it's just absolutely stupid, which every person needs a little something different. There's some people who enjoy being angry all day and serious, and there's some people who want to get a reset, like these people going to Burning Man. And, if that's what works for you, and doing all these things, more power to you. I mean, it sounds like they all enjoy it. Like, I've never heard anyone going to Burning Man and not coming back saying like that was the best event I've ever been to. Like, have you ever heard any negatives out of that place? It's only positives coming from these people who actually attend it. It would certainly be something to see in person. I mean, that'd be crazy.
I've just told, like, you literally see like every type of person. Like, how everyone always says like New York City, you see every type of person. No, I think this is like literally like every type of person. Like a dude with no arms that's just high as hell. You got
that's the coolest part about it.
Right.
Like, you probably got a bum. You probably got a homeless guy hanging out with a billionaire who's got like a $200,000 watch on his hand.
Yes, and they're all in the same RV, just getting on. And it's just like Taser said, like everywhere he looked, it blew his mind. And it goes back to that point, Auzzo. You make a great point. And I saw Lawrence Taylor, LT, Hall of Famer, old school beauty, played for the Giants back in the day, linebacker. He was talking about, he would say you'd be drinking, doing coke, fucking all night, and then go play on no sleep. And he's like, would I have been better if I didn't do that and I was sober? And then it was on All the Smoke podcast, and Matt Barnes and Stack 5 were saying, well, we knew a ton of guys that were sober and they still sucked ass. So it's like every person needs a little bit different of a release. And maybe LT, maybe Taser, maybe some other people, they wouldn't be who they are if they didn't have that and see it from a different side of things versus being the stone cold sober guy. And, maybe that works for them. Or maybe if that sober guy maybe crossed the line a little bit and did some of this stuff, well, fuck, that might open another side of his brain that he never knew he had. So who knows, Auzzo? You can't be quick to judge.
No, you can't. You never know. And obviously, you're not going to question what Johnny Toews and Lawrence Taylor did however they got to where they got to, like Taser. And I mean, those guys are legends of their games, so yeah, there's a million ways to skin a cat, Jordo.
Yeah. I'm just looking at these pictures he's posted like this. There's like a Lady Liberty statue that looks like it's like 100 feet tall. Then he's got, some dirty hippies he's with. And then it's like, Jesus, it's like it almost looks like it's like, in the middle of the Middle East, like a castle. Like,
yeah, I mean,
this like Burning Man just looks insane. So, I mean, he's posting pictures with some fireworks and yeah, man, it looks nuts. It's just like, look at this shit. Like, what is that? Like, it's just like skeleton in the middle of the air, just floating. It's like, if you're on a couple of disco biscuits and you see that, holy jumping. But just speaking about a guy that maybe is a little bit more straight-laced than he maybe attending Burning Man, Sidney Crosby signed a 2-year extension this past week. I believe it was yesterday the news came in, or if not on Monday. Auzzo, he signed for 8.7. That'll carry a AAV he's had for the last 16 years, I believe. So Crosby signed for 8.7. Now, at market value, that guy's a $12 million player at least any day of the week. We talked about him last week. If he stays healthy, he's probably close to 100 points again. I think, and we know this, he's so superstitious that he just signed for 8.7 because it's worked for him. It's crazy. Like, he doesn't even care. He's going to retire the highest paid grossing hockey player in terms of salary, but he could have got a little more skin from the Pens, and they're not in win now right now, but he just takes 8.7, like the humble Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia kid he came into the league as. And honestly, I think it's just because he's that superstitious and he knows he plays well, making 8.7.
Yeah, I mean, such a nails play, 87, making 8.7 million. I wish I could see his agent trying to convince him, like, hey, Sid, because his agent's getting a little cut. So it's like,
oh yeah,
hey, Sid, can we please sign for 11 million here? Because I know you like 87. I respect that, but you can get 11 million and that puts a little more money in my pocket. So I would love to see that conversation go down. Like, if his agent tried to convince him, like, hey, Sid, let's try to get a little more out of this. Like, let go of the 80s. We'll sign for 10.87. How about that? Do you like that? I can imagine. Or is he just like, okay, Sid, we're signing for 8.7. Sounds good, man.
I don't even, yeah, he's probably like, do you want your 3%? Because I'm not giving you 4, and I might even be giving you 2%. So do you want your 2%, or I'll just gas you and I'll sign this deal with Dubas? I'm going to sign for whatever I want to sign for here, buddy. I'm just doing you a favor and giving you a couple $100,000 a year so you can fuck off, and I'm a nice guy. But other than that, you're not going to tell me what I'm signing for. Yeah, I just think he's so superstitious, and there's been stories over the years of him just repeatedly telling the same story over and over again to a guy like Joe Vitale, who was a rookie in Pittsburgh coming up through the ranks because they were on a winning streak and Sid was playing well. And you tell him the same story at the same time before a game, and Vitale would be sitting there and be like, Sid, like, I know this, like you've told me. And he wouldn't break character. He'd tell him the same story over and over again until they ultimately ended up losing, or maybe he didn't have a point. So I think he's just that superstitious, and, good on him, man. One of the most humble guys ever, a Mount Rushmore-like figure of the game. So Sidney Crosby locked up for another 2 years, and hopefully he can will them into the playoffs. Auzzo, we're going to go over to the nail gun of the week. My nail gun of the week comes out of Missouri State football and a 5-star recruit in Jackson Cantwell. And what Jackson Cantwell did was honestly all time. So the Waffle House CEO passed away this week, and the number one offensive line recruit in the country, Jackson Cantwell, led the field onto his high school before his high school game, led out onto the field with a Waffle House flag. He was flying the Waffle House flag because, again, that guy, the big boy, probably loves mucking it, but in light of the CEO of Waffle House passing away, so that is just so goddamn nails. Just a big boy that loves to muck a good Waffle House meal, probably at 2 a.m. after crushing about 30 pints and some moonshine, going over to the local Waffle House and just burying north of 12,000 calories right through the skin and just hanging out with the boys and packing an old dipper. But fucking A. Shout out to Jackson Cantwell. That is my nail gun of the week. I mean, that's just some fucking country boy shit.
That's all time. That's an all-time call there, Jordo. My nail gun of the week is Irina Aldana. She fought at UFC Noche. She finished the fight. She suffered probably the worst cut in UFC history to her face. I think her whole face was just slashed open from her hairline down to her eye. And I mean,
I saw that.
It's absolutely insane.
The old Harry Potter scar there, fella.
And finishing the fight, I don't know, like these girls, how's she gonna feel about that, Jordan, when she's done fighting? Like, you got a slash on your face now. You should probably like it because she's nails, but I don't know.
Like, women in UFC, to me, I mean, I get it. You got to make your living one way or the other, and if you're that big of a savage as a chick, I don't know, Auzzo, just something about a girl getting punched in the face, even by another female, it just and kicked and bodied, like
it's hard to watch sometimes.
It doesn't seem right to me. You're a female, and some of these women, like if they had some makeup on, it's not like
they're pretty good looking.
They're not bad looking. Like, their face is decent. And now you got a busted up nose for $10K you made on this fight because they're not making that much.
No,
even at the highest level of UFC.
Yeah. I just don't know. I mean, she probably wears it like a badge of honor after, because that's just the way fighters are. But I don't think I'd want to wear that thing the rest of my life just from one fight. I don't know if she cut an elbow or like a headbutt or something that split her open, but it was insane. It was like my mom was watching the fight with us and she was like, I gotta walk away. This is disgusting.
Yeah, it's definitely not perfect. So hopefully she heals up and gets that dialed in. Auzzo, going over to, the first ever verbal commitment to join the college hockey ranks from Major Junior. And that comes out of the Western Hockey League in the Regina Pats. Regina Sask, why you ask? Forward Braxton Whitehead has verbally committed to join the Arizona State Sun Devils for the 25-26 season. Fellow, how do you feel about this merger? Guys coming from the Major Junior ranks now taking maybe spots from kids playing US Junior, USHL, NAHL, and even taking away, I guess, considered Canadian Junior A or Junior B players. But now, this is the first ever commitment coming from the Western Hockey League, Major Junior, into college hockey. I think it's good for the game. I think it ultimately makes it a better product. I wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I do. When you make these decisions and you change things up, you never know. Like, you think about the good things that it'll bring, and you sometimes forget about maybe the downsides. Every action has a reaction. Someone always wins and someone always loses. But at the end of the day, Jordo, I think yes, this will take roster spots away from guys in the USHL or the Canadian Junior Hockey League, and maybe this will take guys away from the USHL and they'll go play in the CHL now, because why not? And I don't know what it's going to do, but at the end of the day, I think all this is going to do is expand college hockey in America. Right. And there's going to be more teams because there's going to be more players to pick from. So more teams are going to be competitive, and ultimately the best teams are going to get the best players. It is shortly going to turn into, like the college football world where, you got the big powerhouse teams and they're the only ones that can win the national championship. Well, that's the way it should be, because the best players are playing at those teams and the best players should win the national championship. So yeah. I think it's a good thing.
I think you make a great point there. I think it ultimately opens up the door for more college programs, the UNLVs of the world,
yes.
the UCLA, the USC, maybe even Texas sliding into some SEC like hockey, because that would be unbelievable for college hockey, that atmosphere to grow the game, especially out west here with ASU now in the NCHC. Let's get some more teams out this way. Let's get them into the NCHC in terms of, maybe even having a Western division on this side for teams like Denver, ASU, UNLV. UNLV obviously being right in the backyard of the NHL team, the Vegas Golden Knights. The one point you make, though, Auzzo, that I did not think about is this could really have a reaction for the USHL. Now, is the USHL going to lose out on some of these guys that are American-born? Because the USHL is in a great spot right now. I think it's actually very competitive or really close to the same echelon as major junior hockey right now. Now, do some of these kids say they're living out in Seattle or they're living out in California? Do they want to go play in Des Moines? Do they want to play in City, or do they want to go play in Vancouver for the Giants or Kelowna? Where you have some trim there, and it's a great place to play, and it's a really good league. Now, is that going to be something they fully know now in going to the CHL, where they're like, oh fuck, well, if I don't sign a pro contract, an NHL deal by the time I'm 19 or 20, I can still go to the college route without playing in some of these USHL cities.
Yeah, and I know, a couple of guys I used to play with, they kind of wanted to play major junior, but their parents wouldn't let them because they're like, well, if it doesn't pan out, I want you to have an education, so you're going to college. Well, now these kids who actually want to go play, Canadian major junior hockey, which is different from the from the USHL, Jordan. I mean, it's Canadian hockey. They play big boy hockey up there. Not to say the USHL doesn't, but some of these schools or some of those programs up there are legendary, and it would be cool to play for the London Knights. It would be cool to play in Windsor. They get unbelievable fans. So now I think these parents will let their kids go up there knowing that they can come back and play college still.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's like a security blanket now that they have, because if you don't sign a pro contract by the time you age out, now you can go play somewhere in college, and you don't have to go to the University of Alberta. You don't have to go to the University of British Columbia. You don't have to end up in Sask, or you don't have to go to a small school at the University of Guelph because you didn't make it, or you didn't sign a pro contract to further along your studies and play hockey. Now you can just slide down to the U.S. So Auzzo, I'm just curious I think Canadian hockey, those guys, it won't make a difference whether they're playing Junior A or the Western League, or they're playing, in the OJ versus playing in Windsor. I just think it opens up an avenue, especially for those kids out west where I'm at, in Arizona, California, even in the state of Washington, some of these other places that are kind of obscure, up and coming markets still for hockey. Well, that kind of opens up the door for them just to kind of slide north, kind of go to something they're used to. They get a good program like Kelowna, Vancouver, even Seattle. Some of these teams, Portland, like that's a storied franchise. Oh yeah. Versus trying to get a kid to go to, say, Dubuque or Muskegon. It's like, well, fuck, like I'm on the same time zone. Yeah, exactly. So that I'm interested to see how that works. And even talking, we should have, if you'd ever come on the show, our boy Bryn Chiswick, the GM of the Waterloo Blackhawks, because that's got to be a scare for them a little bit, I would think.
I would think for sure. Without a doubt. Like you mentioned, people growing up in Seattle and California, why would they not go play for the Winterhawks in Portland or Seattle?
Yep.
It's unbelievable programs.
Right.
Way better places to live than Tri-City.
Yes.
And
there are shitty places in the Dub. Like you're not going to go to
for sure.
Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. No offense to my Sask buddies. We love them. Troy Turner. Shout out to Turn and Burn. Shout out to all of the Saskatchewan people that listen. I love Sask. You love Sask. But again, on the Indian reservation in Prince Albert, that's not perfect either. Like I'd rather live in Youngstown, right? So like, you got to pick your poison there. But
now you got options.
Right. Exactly. That's what we're trying to say over here is now you have options. And I just think it expands the game of college hockey. I think it brings a better product. Ultimately, there should be more colleges with D1 programs, and this is a way to really heighten up the product and get those teams in markets like Las Vegas, USC, some of these schools that should have hockey now, maybe they'll get it. So, Auzzo, that is our 2 cents on that. That might be worth maybe 2, maybe 3. We'll go with 3. Anyways, going over to the People's Insider Term of the Week. Folks, we're going to stay on par with Burning Man here, and that is oil change. And what an oil change is, we kind of explained it just by talking about Burning Man, is when you kind of just need to reset the screws. You need a full-on plant-based diet. Might take even a little bit more than that. Maybe it takes a little bit of ayahuasca, DMT, the old Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to go sit in a dark room for 4 days and really figure out what's going on top of this coconut and just flush the system. You get all the old oil out and you put that new in there, and all of a sudden, okay, now I have a different outlook on things. Now I'm kind of seeing the ball from a different side of things. Maybe it opened up a closet or a room in my brain I didn't know I had. So that is the oil change. Sometimes you need a full-on reset. You take your coconut, you take your car over to Jiffy Lube, and you say, hey, fella, I need the full oil change. I need a new set of brake pads. I need some, whatever you want to put on this thing. Just get me cleaned out. I need a new muffler. I need a new, I use whatever it is, Auzzo. You need a new tail light.
Up. Yeah, oh yeah.
Change it up. So get everything reset. Not only is it the full oil change, but I just need you to look at this thing, see what's going on, and there's different ways to do it, whether you go reset at a Burning Man, you go to some sort of retreat. Maybe you do it in the confinements of your house, but that is the People's Insider term of the week. That is the full oil change, cleaning the screws, fella. Auzzo, the one hitter I had for you before we get over to our interview today with wild forward Ryan Hartman, number 38. But he's on the first line. You might have heard of a first line before if you're familiar with hockey. That's not bad. Anyways, I wanted to ask you, when you were a player and you were taping your lumber, I know you used that square toe, the old Nicky Lidstrom square toe, the old pizza shovel, we call it. But were you a guy that used the thick cut goalie tape, or did you use the regular tape, the thinly rolled, like a lot of guys use? Now, a lot of the skill guys use the thick cut goalie tape because they say it goes over less ridges. So were you maybe just, I mean, you weren't a skill guy, but maybe you just got lazy with tape in your stick and you used the goalie cut. So thick cut tape, goalie style, or the regular tape? What'd you use, fella?
You make a good point. There's less ridges on the big tape for sure. But here was my philosophy. Now I tried both of them, Jordo. I tried everything. I had brick hands. I tried stick handling. It just didn't have it in me. I wasn't born to stick handle a puck, unfortunately, for me. But I tried both of them. What I noticed was I had to use the thin tape and I would stack it tight, so there's no ridges. So I actually had the whole blade pretty smooth, but it gave me a little cushion on the blade when I was catching passes and stick handling, where it wasn't so hard. When you have the thin tape on there, it's almost like you don't have tape on there. It's like you might as well use a bare stick, So I had to use the cushion stuff. So, catching passes a little easier, catching a backhand, definitely less feel on the stick, but that's what I went with. I tried the big tape. It was just too hard. Pucks were bouncing off my stick. I needed a little cushion there to catch that pass. Yeah,
it's always crazy. And I want to take it a step further. Did you ever try to tape your stick toe to heel? Because that was always a different feel.
Oh yeah, and I actually did use. I think you used to sock your stick. Was that you started socking the stick? So I actually after that, I loved when I was playing a couple years pro there. I loved doing the homeless sock. So you go from the heel all the way down, but you leave the toe open.
Oh,
the homeless sock.
Oh, the homeless sock.
It was unreal. It was terrible style, but it was so bad that it was sick.
Did you go black tape on the homeless sock too?
No, you had to go white. I had to go white.
I was gonna say that would be extremely homeless if that was that's like a Venice Beach bum. We're going black homeless sock. Holy fuck. That's like Skid Row. Like
that's you're mucking out there.
Oh my god, you have two backhands if you're going black homeless sock. Like
using a Mike Modano curve.
You're rounding the net and you don't even see anyone open. You're just looking at the straight Windex. You're looking to go glassing out.
Oh yeah, you're staring at the glass, picking out your spot, just trying to snipe it on there.
Yeah, you're the only guy that's seen any decent looking girl in the stands, not on purpose, just because you're looking at the glass. Like you're not even looking for one of your guys. Ice it or just
center wide open in the middle. You don't care. Glass.
Yeah. Hey, fella, you just don't be scared to look in the middle, eh? Maybe even the wall. No.
No,
I got the
no.
homeless sock on right now. I got
Yeah.
2 backhands. This thing is a goddamn shovel, and we're in the driveway right now with 12 inches of snow. We're just bailing it over, not even looking.
Don't even fucking call for the puck, buddy. If I hear someone calling for the puck, I know it's the other team trying to bait me, because I've told all my teammates, don't even call for it. I'm not passing to you. I'm going off the glass.
Oh, that's the best when you have a partner you're playing with and he's just struggling that night. And it could even be you. And you're just like, don't even look at me going D to D. And you're like, what? Like, swear to God, if you pass me the puck, fuck you. You're like, all right, fuck. So I got to make all the plays tonight. I used to have a guy in the minors. I won't say his name. He'd be like, you shag the pucks in the corners. I got the front of the net. I go, what? He goes, yeah, you heard me right. And it was a veteran. So he would just sit in front and box everyone out, and I had to shag each way.
It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's so funny. So, yeah, fuck, I miss it. Auzzo, that was episode pre-show 56 on the Screws. Ryan Hartman of the Minnesota Wild coming up. Boys are getting ready for training camp with you, bro. It's always tape to tape. I hope the folks enjoy this one. Some good intel there. So that was another episode of Live in 5, episode number 56 across your goddamn chin. We'll be back next week, folks. Woo! All righty, folks. Now introducing from the cobblestone streets of West Dundee, this high-flying Northwest Chicago suburbs outlaw was chosen 30th overall by his hometown Blackhawks in the 2013 NHL entry-level draft. Known for his goal-scoring ability and criminal-like attitude on the sheet, number 38 has skated in 580 matches and counting. First team all flow, first team all go. Folks, without further ado, please welcome from the Minnesota Wild, Ryan Hartman, the Live in 5 podcast. Hartsy, how you doing, fella?
What's going on, Swish?
Thanks for stopping by. Obviously, we're playing a man down over here. Gage, Auzzo, Ausmus, the co-host and the captain of Live in 5, is dealing with some stuff at Mini Movers, but we appreciate you for coming on out of the state of hockey. We have a lot of people that are Wild fans, a lot of people in the Midwest that tune in. So thanks for popping by, fella. First off, how you doing and where you at right now?
Back in Mini in the basement. Baby's crying upstairs. So, camp's getting started. We got, what's today, Thursday? Got a week left of the summer, and right back at it.
Right back into it, right back into the chin and the grind of the NHL season. But Hartsy, this time of year is always good. Everyone's coming into camp usually in good shape. You're feeling good about the team. There's a good vibe, a good buzz. You're going to get a guy like Spurgeon back in the lineup. Kaprizov, we chatted a little bit before, just got into town. So just take me through kind of in and around the rink. Like, can you get some of the fitness testing done before camp starts? As a veteran, can you knock some of that stuff out of the way? Or what's going up? What's up at the rink right now?
Yeah, we got some. I got the bike tomorrow.
Okay.
Already did most of the other stuff. We did physicals yesterday. But the vibe's good. Everyone's, like I said, knocking out the bike early, so they're not doing it the day before we're on the ice. And got the team golf outing coming up on Monday. But the boys it's always good. You kind of miss the locker room, throughout the summer. You miss seeing everybody and just being together every morning for 4 or 5 hours.
100%. Yeah. You especially, if the season ends a little bit earlier for you, you're like, fuck, you're kind of chomping at the bit. You want to get out of the house. You're like, give me some of those days at the rink with the fellas, and especially those training camp days. But you're looking at your team this year, Hartsy. Obviously, you guys were kind of injury plagued last year, and just you made a couple moves in the offseason in terms of bringing some guys back. But obviously, a guy like Brock Faber going into his second year, a hell of a defenseman back there. Goligoski, you missed the barber in the locker room, I bet. But just talk about the room, the vibe around the team, expectations, and it's got to help having Spurge back in the lineup, because that guy is nasty back there too.
He's nasty. That was our biggest thing last year. Like, I don't know how many games we played with our full lineup. We seemed like when we get one guy back, another two would go down, and get two back, one goes down. It's kind of just all year with Brodeen and Spurge and Foligno. Who do we lose? Boldy would miss the first 15 games. And
Yep.
you know how good he is. Like not having that in your lineup, you know, it changes. You know, the lines around, everything is mixed up, and you know, obviously missing playoffs was, you know, Billy G's not wasn't having it, and you know, made some moves at the deadline, kind of message sent to us, being like, you know, we're not good enough, and we're trading away some guys, and picked up some grit in the off season with um, you know, big Russian and some just quality forwards that kind of help us up and down our lineup. And I think Trennan played for Hines too, so they have a little bit of relationship. He's, you know, pretty good on the PK. Um, I didn't know he knocked out Chara. That's a
Yeah.
pretty epic fight. Like I forgot that until I saw the some Twitter feed. Um, he's a tough kid, but yeah, like I said, we were injury plagued, and everyone seems healthy right now, and you know, hopefully it stays that way throughout the year.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that big mutant. I think he came up through the jungle of Milwaukee and then obviously made his way to Nashville. I remember seeing him. He was just a big dude, and obviously, you know, he can throw the fisticuffs a little bit in terms of throwing both ways. But I wanted to ask you, Hartsey, you've played alongside Kaprizov. You played with Zuccarello a good amount, a good chunk of, you know, your time in Minnesota. You've really honed in your craft there. You've been a 30-goal scorer, a staple to that team, and a kind of a guy that can do it all in terms of a Swiss Army knife and fight, forecheck, play hard, and chip in offensively. When you're playing with guys like that, and you're one of those guys that can play up and down the lineup, but how fun is it playing with Kaprizov? And Zuccarello just seems like he's like Picasso out there. He uses a long piece of lumber. He's always toe dragging. He's on his inside edges. It just hockey for those guys looks pretty fun. And then you just kind of find your holes and get
Yeah.
open, right?
Yeah, you know, he's an artist, man. He loves passing the puck. He'd rather fucking, you know, put a backdoor assist and then score a goal like any day of the week. Like he's pass first mentality, and obviously him and Kirill, you know, they just move the puck around, and you know, I get the puck, I try to give it back to him essentially, and um, you know, I think when I first was with them, when I first got put on their line, I was, you know, trying to, you know, obviously make plays 2-on-1s. I'm trying to, you know, move it over to Krill or Zook, and Billy G kind of came out to me. He's like, Hartsey, like, you're not good enough to pass the puck. you're, you're a decent player, but you get an opportunity to shoot the fucking puck, you shoot the puck. Since then, I kind of, you know, just find a soft spot and just get it, and you know, shoot the puck when need be, but try to get in front of the net for those guys, because those guys open so much. Like Krill opens up so much space on the ice, you know.
Yeah.
um he's just his edge work, and he's so strong. Like a lot of those superstars, you know, there's you know, they might be flashy, but they don't get in the corners, you know, they lose puck battles, but in open ice they're great. This guy's, he'll beat you in any puck battle. He'll hit you. He'll two-hand you. He'll, you know, it. I
Yeah.
just love his all-around game.
He seems like a guy that just looks like he's built like a cigarette machine. He's like one of those guys as a defenseman. If you're going in the corner, you got to be heads up because he might do that reverse hit on you and he could fucking
Yeah,
knock you right on your ass.
yeah, yeah. And just if he has the puck with his back turned to you, let alone the front, his face facing you, you're not getting it from him. You know, like
Yeah.
you can try to push on his hips. The only way to really get the puck is by taking a penalty. Honestly, like there's no other way you're gonna get it from him. So he's a blast to play with. Those two are great to play with. You know, we've built a lot of chemistry. You know, had a, you know, the last few years have put up a lot of points together, and I don't know how the lineups are going to shake up this year, but hopefully get an opportunity to start with them and start off the season on a good note.
Yeah, and you always see those random clips, especially just being a fan now, and you know whatever they come out of northern Russia or Siberia, wherever he is, and he's doing his workouts and he's deadlifting and he's carrying, you know, just big pieces of lumber. Like the guy he seems like he's built like an ox. So it's cool to, you know, kind of get an inside look and you know, kind of see how really truly strong he is. But Hartsey, speaking of your game, man, you know, I've known you since, you know, your days at the 94 mission, you know, goes back to probably ages 10,
Yeah.
11, 12, 13, all the way up to 15 or whatever it was. And, you know, then you went on to the US program and then obviously played in the Ontario Hockey League. before you made your way pro and spent some time in Rockford, but you've always had that edge to your game, the unpredictable, you might run someone, but then you could score a goal or you could fight. Is that something that was instilled in you, or did you watch certain guys growing up, or did you just kind of always just have that kind of fuck you attitude on the sheet? Because I love your game, man.
Yeah. I think my old man installed a lot of that in me. He was a big Mark Messier fan. He'd always, like, my whole childhood showing me Mark Messier clips, and um, but always he's really hard on. I think every kid's biggest nightmare is getting in the car after a bad hockey game on the way home,
Yeah.
and he didn't care if I scored and had 3 points. If I was playing soft, he was livid. He was just
Yeah.
like, you know, to make a name for yourself, go hit
Right.
somebody, don't let anyone walk all over you. But that's kind of been something he instilled in me since I was young, even in school. It's just like school bus bullies when I was in first grade, just, hey, hit them back, just that type of thing. Yeah, that was since the day I was born. This guy was having me always stand up for myself and my friends. So
Yeah, yeah, no, he's a beauty. Actually, one time I was scratched at a game at the UC, and I was just in a full suit. I was, hanging out after the game, kind of in Chicago. You and Nick had just played, and we were kind of up in the main concourse. And I was talking to your dad. I always love shooting the shit with him, and he's like, what's up, Jordan? Like, how you doing? This and that. Kind of getting into that. He's like, what are you up to these days? Well, it's like, oh, Greg, I was just scratched tonight. I still got my check, So it was pretty funny. But he's a beauty, and that just kind of leads me into living out your childhood dream, being able to play for the Chicago Blackhawks, obviously with a teammate like Vinny Hinostroza, my brother, you guys kind of coming up, trying to figure out the league and different things and how to be a pro and whatnot. But that had to be some of your best memories, just coming up, learning from guys like Showtime, Johnny Tays, Dunk, Siebes. Like, how cool was that, man? Just going to the UC every night and that building still rocking. Like, I even going to a game there now still gives me chills, just even sitting in section 124,
Yeah, us four, you, me, Vinny, Nikki. I mean, we grew up in arguably some of the best Chicago sports era, especially for hockey. Just that city was electric from 2009 to 2000.
Yeah.
15, 16. And then, as a fan, like, I was at the parade in 10. My draft year was 13, so I obviously wasn't there for that, but um, grow up a fan of these guys, and then all of a sudden you got three Chicago kids making the opening night roster and now are playing together with these guys, learning from these guys, guys with, three Stanley Cups. Um, it was a dream for all of us. Me and Vinny roomed together on the road. We did everything together with road dinners, at home, and yeah, I mean, our Halloween party. Us three idiots dressing up together.
Yeah.
Just some really good memories. Just being with those guys. Just from growing up and being buddies with these guys our whole lives, and then now we're playing in the NHL together with our idols, growing up. It was pretty cool.
And how sick was it too that, I love being in that bus ramp, and especially after the games, and if you were going to go grab dinner or just say hi to Nick or whatever it was, you'd always see Showtime's Hummer pulled up there, and that was the car I think he bought with his first signing bonus. I mean, the guy at this point had made like 70 bananas in the league, and he's still driving that Hummer. It was pretty sick. Like, you just would see that thing, you're like, fuck, there's
He finally
Showtime's whip.
he finally got rid of it.
Did he really?
Yeah, I think he might have upgraded to a new Hummer. Actually, he still has a Hummer, I believe. No, that was the best part, is seeing this guy and driving his Hummer, and then his old man's a big hockey. Sometimes I think he bought him another apartment in the Trump. He had a second apartment in the Trump that his parents lived in, and his old man would come to pregame skates, practices. I think he drove him around a little bit just so he didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that Hummer was pretty funny. And I couldn't believe he got rid of it, though. That thing was a staple of the city.
thing was a staple in the city. You mentioned Mr. Kane. He would be at every morning skate. He would be at every game. I mean, he was just like the ultimate hockey dad. And I even remember like my dad, shout out to Fuzzy Schmaltz, would be talking to him, on a dad's trip or it was just a game or maybe even pop into a morning skate. Like that guy was, he was dialed into, how much he loved his son. And obviously it's pretty fun when you're watching 88 twirl around the rink and doing what he does. I mean,
Yeah.
unreal.
Well, like you said, he'd be at every pregame skate, and he'd be down in the tunnel afterwards, grabbing autographs from guys. Like, sign this. Obviously, he's probably maybe giving away or charity stuff, or maybe he's just adding to his collection. Don't really know, but I went from 2009. I'm asking Kaner for his autograph, and now his old man's asking some of the boys for our autographs. It's pretty full circle, but no, he's a legend. See him. He used to belong to Bev in Chicago. I think he left. He moved up north, but I used to see him around a lot down there and play some golf together. But he's a little domesticated now up north.
Yeah. How is that track at Bev? It's pretty nice, isn't it?
It's
It's like,
great.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a little bit in the ghetto, south side,
right.
but it's they did some redos recently, and it's pretty juice, man. It's tough.
How long does that take you to get to the city if you kind of time out traffic? Is it like a 30-minute poke or is it even less than that?
Going down is pretty easy. It's probably like 25.
Yeah,
I'm in Lincoln Park, so that adds like 15 minutes to get through the loop. Like middle of summer, it's brutal unless you leave early morning. Getting home, like if you're trying to leave around 5 o'clock, you're looking at an hour 10, which
yeah,
I mean you're not going to escape. If you're going to be golfing in Chicago, you're not escaping traffic on the way home. Like
right.
there's no way around it. I've tried
Yeah,
everything. I've tried going right through the hood. I've tried going up Lakeshore. There's no way around it.
yeah. And Hartsey, obviously you're a big Chicago guy. You're a big Cubs fan as you are. So I wanted to ask you, when you were back there this summer, did you make it to Wrigley and did you get to the 1914 club underneath? And then did you parlay that into sluggers? Or where's your spots around, Wrigleyville, Wrigley Field? Do you have are you an old Crow guy for one before? Or, talk to me about that, baby.
No, you nailed it actually. So I always dedicate one bleacher game, or if not more. Like I have to sit in the bleachers.
Right.
That's
Blue
usually my
collar
go.
guy.
Yeah, it's usually my go-to. Murphy's before, and then bleachers. But one time a year we go sit in 1914, and this it was like a Wednesday this year. Not much going on. I think it was a 6 o'clock game. Rain delay. So we're not stuck, but we're sitting in the 1914 club for an extra 2 hours, which you're
Kind of nice.
drinking for free, and then you're feeling good by first pitch, and by the end of the game, like you said, we're in sluggers hitting dingers, and it goes hand in hand. You got to go to sluggers. You got to hit some balls.
Oh, yeah.
When you're
Choke
sitting
and
there,
poke.
we were sitting there. You're like, I think I can do this. We went this year, and I'm sitting in line with a guy. We're in fast pitch, and this guy goes. He goes, "Oh, this is pretty hard. This is fast pitch, just so you know." I go, "Oh, really? Like, I've never swung a bat before. Like, is it hard?" He's like, "Oh, you've never swung a bat?" I go, "I bet you I could probably get like 3 or 4." He goes, "Dude, I'd give you $100 if you can hit one of them." I go up there. I hit fucking like 7 out of 8, just right back at the machine. Just completely just rinse the guy for $100. But
Keep the
um,
change, buddy. I'll be here all night.
yeah. Um, no, it's a good time. I love sluggers.
Dude, that bar is unbelievable. It's got to be the last bar that not only you don't have to sign anything in, but you can just go in there half cocked. You don't need to wear a helmet or anything. You just go in there and get your bat on the ball, like just slapping nuggets. It's unbelievable.
I think you can bring your own bat, I believe.
That is so good. Go check the bat, get it for after.
Yeah,
The last time I was in there, I always wear my Franklin batting gloves, and people are
yeah,
like,
of
Jesus,
course.
like that's a hell of a play. Yeah, I mean, this is what I do, So, but
Yeah,
you go back to the 1914 club, and when you get those rain delays at Wrigley, and you're down there and you're crushing them, and man, they can sneak up on you, especially like they're making you a nice drink too. You can get an old fashioned or something. It's
yeah,
that's a hell of a little setup, especially in a ballpark that old. Like you wouldn't think it's there, and then you walk down, it's like the whole spread. They got
yeah.
the buffet. It's
I
unreal.
I think everyone was so like I remember the whole debacle over putting up the jumbotrons. You know how old school it used to be. Everyone was so mad about the new buildings going up, the jumbotron and all that. But I think they've done a really good job. making
Yeah.
it still old school, but a little newer. Like the restaurants around the area, like I forget what it even looked like around there. Like Wrigleyville is completely different from 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that one street of Clark, it kind of has like a little reminiscent of like a smaller Nashville. When you walk out of a game, you're like, holy shit! Like no one's driving on the street. It's bars
Yeah.
everywhere, live music. Like it's, I mean, that's the best
I
park as far as
I
I'm
always,
concerned.
I always called Bridgestone the Wrigley of the NHL. 'Cause it
That's a
just seems the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially a guy that you played there too. And Hartsey, you're a big Pearl Jam guy, if I'm not mistaken, and you've seen them tickle the sixth string at Wrigley. And just lastly on Wrigley, like there's no better place to watch a concert as far as I'm concerned. I went and saw Morgan Wallen there last summer. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
like I want to do this every night.
Yeah. No, we saw Pearl Jam there. That was another rain delay actually. That one that one didn't start till like 10:30, and he played way past curfew, played his whole set list.
Yeah.
Some of it in the rain. Yeah, Pearl Jam at Wrigley. That one in Fenway are the two. I need to go see him at Fenway as well. But that was such an awesome show.
Have you met Eddie Vedder?
I have not. No, I know he does that little show above Murphy's sometimes after, but
Yeah, that's what I was curious.
yeah, no, I missed an opportunity to go up there with some of the fellas. I got stuck in a conversation with a guy from Beverly
Okay.
downstairs, and I missed the window to get up there.
Oh, that's tough.
And yeah,
One day, fella, but
one day.
Artsy, I just wanted to get into a little bit of golf talk with you. And you've played a lot of good tracks over the years. You're a guy that I think vacations down to Hilton Head. I think, were you born there, by the way, in South
Yeah,
Carolina?
yeah, I was born
Okay.
down there.
So yeah, you know that area in terms of like Pinehurst, Hilton Head, all those tracks. Like, what do you think the best public track you've ever played? And then to parlay that, what do you think the best private track you've played? So I guess a two-part question.
Down there or just in general?
Just in general, baby. Just anywhere.
You know what? For public track, I'm gonna give Rockford a little shout out here.
Really?
El, now I'm not gonna forget the name of it. Eldine, I think it's Eldine.
Okay.
I think we'd play for $10 as a Rockford Ice Hog. We just walk in, bring a $10 bill, throw it in, grab a cart, and go play. It was just we played it almost every day. We loved
Yeah.
it, but
It's
best.
actually decent.
It's good. I liked it.
You just like, yeah, you just
Yeah.
like playing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're going like legit, like best golf course, like Whistling Straits for sure, Erin Hills.
Yeah.
Private. I got a chance to do Oakmont a few summers ago. Oakmont was
Okay. Yeah, that's juice.
pretty sweet. Best part about it were the showers. They have the best water pressure, and I think dude,
National League water pressure when it's just hitting you.
I think it was a horse shower. Like it was 10 gallons a second. Like it was unbelievable. Nothing better
Yeah.
than a nice shower after a round. But I think Oakmont was for sure number one. That or
Have you
Riviera.
played? Oh, Riviera, that's a sick track. Have you played Pebble?
I've not done Pebble.
Not done Pebble. How about in any other courses like in the LA area, like LACC? You've obviously played Riv.
Pasa de Tempo.
Okay.
I actually got this thing behind me. What Trump National.
Yep.
And what's 98? Oh, that's Pasa de Tempo. Yeah. Nothing up. I'm trying to think some other tracks.
How about
like
Chicago track? Like Medina?
Chicago golf's nasty.
Yeah.
It's old school. I love Black Sheep.
Yeah, I've never played that.
I love Black Sheep. 3 nines. You can play the course different way. Every time you come out, you can play 19 through 27. You can play 9, then go back to 1. Black Sheep's great.
Yeah, and you guys, in terms of you, my brother, Christian Dvorak, aka CD, and Christian Fischer have done a couple golf swings together. And one round that was absolutely epic that I want you to tell the people about was that round of 2 hole-in-ones with that featured Nick and Fish both getting hole-in-ones. I mean, I'm pretty sure Fishy was trying to load the burb straight out of Whistling Straits. He was trying to find any sort of tarmac that he could get off and go get the boys to Vegas that night.
It was insane. Like, obviously, it was the first round. We played Aaron the day before, or the night before, and drove over. First morning of our golf trip, we got 5 rounds paid for left already after this round. We get the first hole-in-one on the front 9. I think it's I can't remember what hole it is, 7 or 8 or
yeah,
6
I think
maybe.
It's 6 maybe, yeah.
And then we come up to the halfway house, take a couple celebratory shots. Fish is loading up. I don't know what app he's got or what contact he's got. He's finding jets. He's if we go to Milwaukee right now, skip this 9, we can get out into Vegas in 4 hours. We'll be good. And then we roll around the hole 12, and Fish hits a hole-in-one. And now it's no debate. We're going to Vegas.
Right.
And we kind of have a talk. We ended up not finishing. I think we played 18 in the dark, but we get inside and we're like, listen, let's talk this one out logistically. Like, we're gonna fly, spend all this money on a jet, and lose a bunch of money in Vegas, and we're not gonna be able to golf. And after this Vegas trip, we're gonna be so mad at ourselves. Let's stick it out here. Maybe we'll get another one, but we got some 5 rounds left. Fish didn't talk to us. He just got a hole-in-one. He didn't talk to us till like 11 p.m. He just sat in his chair pouting. He was pouting about not being able to go to Vegas.
He's on his Wheels Up account trying to get a guy in. He's talking to Rocket Pro Services, anyone that could try to get him a bird. So who ended up getting the hole-in-one first? Was it Fish or Nick? Was it Fishy and then Nick? I think Nick was on 12 maybe.
Sorry, Nick was on 12. It was Fish on that round was got a little blurry for I think all of us after that. But
yeah. Dude, that is crazy.
And they're all, I think Fish was like 190. Yeah. And I can't remember what Nicky's was, and then Fish, they give him the flag, you sign it, and I think we all whatever. He left the flag in the bar and couldn't find it.
No way.
He lost the flag the night after, the night of.
Oh my God. Cause I've seen Nick's and I'm pretty sure it says hole 12, but like, what are the vibes like that? I mean, I remember hearing that. It didn't even seem real. Like 2 hole-in-ones. And then were they both like darts? Were they both like, you knew it was in right away, or were you walking up to the cup and you're like, holy fuck, like were they both?
Yeah, Nicky's was the pin was sitting down over a ridge, so the caddy it was tracking. It just carried the bunker, and we were like, "Wow, that's got to be tight." Yeah. And the caddy goes, "I think I heard the pin." We're like, "Shut the fuck up! You didn't hear the pin. We didn't get a second one." And as you're walking up, you start walking a little quicker. No ball on the green.
Yep,
it's in the cup and. Couldn't believe it. Like, it was pretty epic. But we actually after the front 9, there was a wedding going on there, and we actually the groom invited us to the wedding on property. So after we had some beers up at the bar, we stopped and said hello to the groom and the bride, and I think he recognized Schmaltz. He's a Chicago guy, and. It was pretty epic.
Seamus O'Toole, Bobby O'Shea. I'm ready to get drunk. Walking in like wedding crashers.
Yeah,
that is unbelievable. That's so nails. But that's a hell of a crew, especially with a guy like a sneaky beauty like Christian Dvorak. I mean, not a lot of people know how funny this guy is, especially when he gets a couple in him and he starts opening up a little bit. But he's an all-time beauty. And then obviously Fishy, he comes as advertised, right?
Well, so we got rinsed. Me and Fish played against Nicky and Devo. Devo's a way better golfer than his handicap, at least at the time, because he's an athlete. He can play. Yep. And I think me and Fish ended up paying for both their trips
Yep, I think I did get wind out of it. Devo's that guy that like maybe plays at a 10 handicap, but he could shoot 75.
Yeah,
Like
but if you're
that's
playing a
the thing.
Scotch, he'll make 3 birdies. He might
Yep.
blow up some doubles, but it doesn't matter in a Scotch game if you're making birdies.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah. He's he's got a good swing, and if he gets hot too, like he goes and runs, and like you said, you can
yeah.
make a bunch of birdies. I wanted to ask you, Hartsey, like, living in the city in terms of Chicago a long time, especially you got your place there, like you said, just outside of Lincoln Park or in Lincoln Park. What are some of the best restaurants you like to snap it around with? Maybe go with your wife or the fellas. One of the spots that that I've been kind of going to the last few years is Erie Cafe, and I've been loving this spot. I think it's a spot that guys like Robbie Russo, Brody. I think I first went with a guy like Alex Broaders, but this Erie Cafe is as old school as it gets. So that's one of my staples when I get in there. Chicken parm as long as your arm, vodka sauce on it, obviously,
Yeah.
a little sausage and pepper. So is that one of the spots or the staples you'd like to hit too as well?
That's a good spot. Typically just driving through Lincoln Park, just especially coming home from golf, and if the traffic's bad, it's a quicker stop. You don't have to go through the loop, so I tend to stop there for dinner. Erie Cafe is great. My buddy George likes going there. He's a big Gibson's guy too. Um,
Yep.
Chicago Cut, that was kind of a staple when we were playing there. You know, they sponsored the Hawks, so players get free dinner, just tip,
How sick is that?
and family and friends.
Yeah, I know.
They honored the family and friends. I had my brother going. I was on the road. My brother's going with for dinner.
Like,
Free dinner.
and I'm pretty sure like the booze was included, wasn't it too? So if you say you wanted to get the family wanted to get a bottle of wine, like I think it was kind of just come as you are. Like what a
Yeah.
deal that was.
So what they do, they'd bring over the bill, and they'd have the bill with the price, and then take it away, and it'll just be a blank sheet. And
Wow.
you're essentially, they showed you just so you can tip off, you know.
Yep.
And we were pretty generous with them as players. If you're giving us free meals, the probably going to pay close to the full bill, but just going right to the server. So they
Right.
took care of us, we took care of them, and me and my wife, we go. She likes this sushi place by us, Juno.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I've heard of that.
it's good. It's small. Like you're leaving hungry, but um, it's good. Every order is like one little piece of nigiri, and but it's pretty good.
Yeah, and obviously, the West Loop. It's not a terrible poke from you, but it seems like that's kind of the area. I love Lincoln Park. I love Old Town up there too. But one spot we got to give some love to as well as it's one of the best bars in the city. It's right off of Division Street. You got the peanuts on the floor. Am I thinking? That's the Lodge. Why was I blanking on that? But that
Yeah.
spot, I was there 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, with CD and a couple of other guys. That spot never gets old too. That's just an old dive bar off of Division. I love that spot.
Yeah, you'll wake up with peanuts in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's the Lodge is great. Butch McGuire's is also great.
Yeah.
Trying to think. With the other, have you ever done Arma Jailhouse? Have you been there yet?
No, no.
You gotta try.
I've
You
heard of
gotta
it.
try that. Yeah, that
Good.
place is great. But yeah, no, we love the Lodge.
Yeah.
Like you said, old school. You know,
Yep.
peanuts. Butch McGuire's and the Lodge actually sponsored our. We did a beach volleyball, co-ed beach volleyball last summer on Thursdays or Wednesdays, I think.
Yep.
And go over there for a beer and a pie, and it's a good
Yep.
setup.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that city in the summer is tough to beat, and especially just the amount of guys around that are still playing, and you got old buddies and whatnot. But Hartsey, when you're back there, do you work out with that Ian Mack, or do you work out with someone else? Like who do you throw the weights around when you're back there?
I'm with Paulie Goodman with
Oh yeah,
the
okay.
Hawk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been working out with him since obviously it was in Chicago, and I haven't really. I've maybe changed one summer. I went GVN for a summer just because I just had got traded, and there were some logistics issues with me working out inside the Hawks facility, so I didn't work out there
Right.
that summer. But yeah, we go back, typically every summer just because the skates are so good.
Yep.
The workout groups are great. So,
You
and Brian Keene, the skating coach,
he puts on some good skates. So
Those workouts are no joke, too, right? Like he's throwing you through the ringer, isn't he? Like you guys are going fucking hard.
They've gotten shorter, but I mean, we used to work out at East Bank Club with him, and we were tipping 3 hours, and it was you'd finish a set of like kind of a circuit. It's like the second circuit after an hour warm up, and you're like, oh, all right, last set. You go through the set, and he's like, all right, now we're gonna move upstairs, and it was just they seem like they never end, and then it's treadmill, 10-10 tests, 10 speed, 10 incline. They just never end, but
He's got you on the Airdyne bike too.
Yeah, come season though, you feel great,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, that's good shit. And Hartsey, I know you're a big baseball guy. Like, do you get to any Twins games this time of year? Do you pop in, before camp? Do they do like a night honoring the Wild, or is that kind of just something that it's not really goes on?
No, I think the prospects, they got prospect camp going on right now. They were just there last night. I don't go to a whole lot of Twins games. It's hard to compete when you're spending the whole summer going to Wrigley Field, and then
it's true.
No offense against Target Field, but it's tough, and obviously I have no skin in the game with the Twins. Obviously, if they're in the playoffs, I'm cheering for them, and but I think a lot of guys go to the Vikings games. That stadium is elite.
Yeah, that is elite. That's And even where you guys are playing still at the XL, or maybe I don't know if they renamed it or whatever, but that's still a nice barn, fella. That's like a fine wine over there. I love getting in there, watching a game, or even back in the day playing a little bit there too. Like that's a nice barn. That's one of the better ones in the league still, I think. I mean, going in there and you're always sold out, good crowd, good energy. People know the game. It just feels like hockey when you're walking in there.
The X is so loud. Playoff hockey there and big games, there's it's an epic atmosphere. I think I went there first time in like 2011 or 12 and watched the Hawks play them. I think me and my dad made a trip up to watch them play, and I was just like, this place is rocking. And sometimes when games are a little quiet and we're playing, I feel like a lot of the people, they know hockey so well. It's more like they're not chit chatting. Sometimes you get that little buzz, people kind of drunk or talking, and everyone there is analyzing the game. They're sitting there, they're watching. But when plays are developing, it's electric.
Yeah, it is, and especially like you said, they get the whiteout going in playoffs. You get a guy like you running around a little bit, the big Moose Foligno, which I love his game too. He's putting guys through the end wall like that. It gets electric in there. And last little bit, I just want to touch on your team is Foligno, man. Now this guy, he's got to be a beauty. Just the way he plays, the way he carries himself. Obviously, had a guy like Patty Maroon there last year, another glue guy. But Foligno, to me, he's one of those guys that every team, you want him on your team, right? It's just, he has that just like, kind of just that same as you, just like one of those guys that's a glue guy, but also can kind of do it all.
Moose is the man. Yeah. He's, I just remember playing against him. Like, he's so big, he's got to walk through the door sideways. He's just massive, man. And he can skate, he can chuck them. He's got skill, like, he can dangle around guys, and but he's, like you said, like, he's one of the nicest guys in the world. Gotten really close with Moose over my time here. I think he came maybe a year or two before me to here, but Moose is the man, and like you said, definitely a guy you want on your side for sure.
Yeah, no, he just seems like one of those heart and soul type players. Hartsey, you're going to have to say hi to my good buddy, Matt Harder, who is your strength coach over there. Was a guy I went to school at North Dakota with. So say hi to him. And again, man, thanks for coming on, dude. This was awesome. We really appreciate it. Again, we were playing a little shorthanded with Auzzo down in the lineup tonight, healthy scratched, but it is what it is. Thank you for popping on, bro. That was awesome.
Of course, dude. Anytime.
Folks, that was Wild forward number 38, Ryan Hartman. Guy out of, an Illinois product. Fella, thanks for stopping by. Woo.